Oh, I have to stop for a minute. Good morning. I promise this channel's not going to turn into just me rambling, but I have to tell you that that first video of From the Ground Up, that drained me so emotionally. I can't tell you how I have felt for the last couple of days. You all left the kindest comments, and that video has a lot of likes, which I truly appreciate. It means that at least you understand, and you don't have to agree with everything. You know, it's impossible to know what somebody else has been through, and it was very cleansing for me to tell that. And I never want to get into bashing people. I don't. You know, just like nobody knows what I had been through unless they had walked in my shoes. Maybe the people in my life who have hurt me, I don't know what they've been through. And we should all have compassion. One of the things I mentioned was, why would you stay so long? One of the tenets, I guess I should say, of my faith is to treat other people as my brothers and sisters, including my husband and my children. So that means that you forgive, and it means that you try to lift up, and it means that you look for good and not bad. That is a very, very fine rope to walk everywhere in day-to-day life. Treating people like you would want to be treated. So I'm not going to ramble. I just mostly wanted to tell you how draining that was for me. I slept for about 2.5 hours yesterday afternoon, and I don't like to do that because I feel like my day is just shot, as my mother would say. She says a lot of things that are in my heart and in my mind. But yeah, the day's gone. If you lay down in the middle of the day and you sleep, or if you lie down, recline, lie. If you lie down in the middle of the day and sleep for several hours, I don't know about you, but I wake up and I'm just frantic. The day's gone. All these things I wanted to do yesterday, and I did get up and get some things done. I came out here and worked. I did some more in the garden. I planted some more nasturtiums. Oh my goodness, when I opened my blinds this morning and looked out, it was like the scene in I guess it's Snow White when she goes down into the forest and there are all these animals everywhere. We have a little bunny that's living in our yard. I think it's made its little house under the cryptomeria, which are some beautiful large trees that are sort of a barrier between houses. So this bunny comes out, and I'm amazed at how friendly this wild bunny is. I've raised rabbits, and I know how afraid they can be, even pets. And you can train bunnies. I mean, they're really, really sweet pets. But wild rabbits, they get really scared. I know my grandpa would say that you could scare one to death. Its little heart would beat so fast that it would just fall over. And so I try not to scare this one, but when I came out of the workshop last night, it was dark except for, like the security lights in the yard. And right in the center of the spotlight was this little bunny, this little bun, just sitting there like it was waiting for me. And I came out and it didn't run. It just sat there. And I got close to it. Well, when I say close to it, like across this room, it was a pretty good length between us. But it just sat there. And I went inside and got part of a carrot and tossed it. I didn't want to scare it, so I didn't toss it right at the bunny, but where the bunny could hear it. And the bunny jumped a few feet, like kind of getting away from me, but also moving in the direction of the food in general. So I came on back in here. I'm not sure. I didn't stay out there to watch, because it occurred to me too that the bunny maybe was just frozen there, not knowing what to do. It seems like a young rabbit. But yeah, I opened the blinds this morning and there was a chipmunk, there were about 10 squirrels, there was a bunny, there was a pair of cardinals, the male and the female, And I don't know if you know this, but in springtime, mating time, the males will feed the females. And that's what was happening. And Mars, our big orange cat, Mars and I were just sitting on the chair looking out the window at those cardinals. I wished so much I had my camera, that I was afraid to move, because obviously, well, they were facing the window, and any movement I was afraid would make them fly away. So I just sat there watching the male feed the female, and it's kind of a mating thing. They're, he is courting the female and really being good to her, because it's egg season. It's time to have babies. Oh, I just love it. I miss all of that about my garden, my old garden. And this garden is going to be different. There are more challenges here as far as growing things from the ground up. And we have deer, so many deer. They run through here in groups of 12, 13, 14. We've counted that many, and they are not super afraid either, and they're hungry. They need to eat. The father of my children was raised on a big farm, and he used to say that, you always had to plant enough for the animals too, because they do come to the gardens. And fencing, of course, you have to get into that kind of thing. But the animals, there are some animals that they come over the fence or through the fence or under the fence, so you do have to think about that. Anyway, I want to show you a few things, and I want to tell you just a little bit about the compost. I call it a compost pile. It's the compost area that I'm going to show you. What I always did in my old garden, I never really had the money for one of those big things that you spin, and I wasn't sure I wanted that anyway. I liked doing things the old-fashioned way, but I'm not saying that things can't get better. They can. But the boys helped me a lot with this, and their dad is the one who kind of helped me start this, because I wanted a garden. We had wonderful soil. It was like two different countries. In the front yard, the soil was unbelievable. You could turn that soil over and it was black gold. It was wonderful. But then in the backyard, there was some really heavy orange. It wasn't really like clay. I guess it was in a way like clay. But in addition to that, the house was pushing 100 years old. I mean, by the time, it is 100 years old now. Well, the house is gone. That's another thing. It was so neglected. About 10 years after I had left, the neglect just shot through the roof. I mean, and the house sold, not by my choice, but it sold, and it was so bad. When they started to work on the remodeling, it had to be raised. It had been truly neglected with water damage and things like that. But it was an old house, and of course a lot of people had lived there. One of my favorite things was to be digging in the front yard and dig up something old, an old coin. We found not a lot, but we would find coins. I would find pieces of hardware. Probably the sweetest thing I found was a vintage porcelain puppy, and it had Japan on the bottom. So it was one of those little decorative whatnots, and I have that. I don't think that one's out here. I have my little one of my little shadow boxes here, but I also have one back in the guest room, and I think it's in that. That's one thing I've kept. But in addition to the soil in the back, I think years ago, people would just dump trash. Everybody had a dump or a trash ground. Not everybody, but that's what people did. People with land. I can remember visiting many things like that through the years at families' houses, and it wasn't trash. It was old box springs and maybe tires, and it was farm pieces. It was things that were just carried off to a pile, and some things do break down again, My ex-mother-in-law, who I loved her dearly, the father of my children, he was what they called a change of life baby. So she was already in her 40s when she had him, and they weren't planning on another child. But she was really smart. She was the age of my grandparents, and she had gone to college, which was really unusual for a woman born in the early 1900s. So she had read about composting or breaking things down, and on her property, she had different areas where she broke down different things. You know, the depth at which you dig and how long things have to be in the ground to break down, and it was quite amazing. I didn't realize that there was a science to that, or that there could be sort of a country science to that kind of thing. But anyway, that area in my backyard eventually turned into a really, really good place for soil as well. I've gone way around the barn to tell you this. But it had become overgrown with vines, little just scrubby trees, and the soil wasn't the best. And then in addition to that, I think this family had been putting some of their things there. There were obviously box springs there, rusted coils. I wish I had some of those now because I could really do some eco dyeing. But I set out, I remember some of the days so clearly. My little Daniel was born in June, and that first year I went out there and started to clear, and I would take Daniel out and put him either in his crib, not a crib, but a playpen, and, you know, I would make sure he was somewhere safe. He also liked to, I would just lift up the hatch on the back of my car and sit him in his car seat where he could see what was going on, and he loved that. He would be so still, and he would just watch everything. Oh my goodness, I have so many things, so many stories I could tell. There is nothing like being young and poor and raising a family. There's just nothing like it. I mean, you learn so much, and if you're bound and determined to do it on your own and to be self-sufficient, it's like I said the last time, it's magic. But I set out clearing that, and it wasn't long until my husband at the time, he joined me, and we cleared that space, and he made a compost area for me. That's what, my goodness, I mean, I've just told so much here. But we would dig a deep trench, like maybe 3 feet deep, to put all the scraps in. And all of the soil that came out of that was piled up on to the side of it. So I had 2 places going all the time. And the first few rounds of this, I really wasn't getting any soil because it was truly ditch digging, back breaking work to dig that first trench. We came across, like I said, bed spring coils. The ground was hard. We had pulled out all of those vines. So he dug that deep trench for me. We started putting scraps in, all of the vegetable, fruit, eggshells, coffee grounds, things like that. And when that ditch filled up, he took all the soil from the other side, put it on top, and then had the backbreaking work of digging a trench on that side. The soil that came out of that, every time we would do that, it was getting softer and softer and richer and blacker and blacker. There were so many earthworms out there, and I was in that house for 23 years. We ended up buying the house. It was a rental at first, and it was a lot of memories there. The kids, we didn't have TV, and the kids played a lot in that yard. They had rope swings, and just some years we would have huge piles of leaves where we raked under the maples. We had to rake every year. Yep, there are some golden memories from that place. But I'm doing something similar with the compost here. I have this semicircle, you'll see it, but I don't think I really explained when I was showing you the compost pile or compost area. I don't think I really told you about it. I was just showing you some of the things that I have out there, and we will see what happens. Those 23 years, I didn't have any pine trees. No pine trees, 0. I had hardwoods. I had a walnut tree, which you have to be careful with. Not everything likes to grow around a walnut tree. Walnut trees I have read that they used to be planted around home places to work as lightning rods, to keep lightning from striking the house. And there is something in, you'll have to read about it. I don't remember what it's called, but there is something in a walnut tree that's different, a black walnut tree, the black walnut. That's what I'm talking about. There's something in that tree, in the bark, in the leaves, the roots, that it makes it very different. Black walnut powder, I think, I know it's an herbal medicine or a natural medicine. It's used sometimes to treat, I think, ringworm and things like that, or something. It's been so long since I read about all of that. I need to get back to that. I need to take ownership instead of, I talked briefly about moving so many times. I don't want to get into everything that happened between leaving my home place and where I am today. I will share some of that because I do think it would help some people. I won't go into that right now. I do want to share some of that though, because I think it would help people. But I did move a lot of times, and so many gorgeous pieces of furniture that I had. I've always been a thrift store queen. I love to find things, clean them up, change them, restore them, use them like they are. I had pieces that I will never find again. I had, old pretty furniture, and it was loved and well worn, and I'll never have those again. I've let go of a lot of things because I had to. I've had to move in a hurry more than once, and there's so much tied into that would take, I could talk for hours, and I could tell you things not to do. I really need to claim what I have in front of me right now. I could also talk for hours about faith and about what I think is the love of God. And I feel very loved. I don't feel bitter at all. I don't say, I have questioned before, like, why didn't prayers work? I prayed more than you will ever know for the situation that I left. But I don't feel bitter. I feel like God has been so good to me through all of this. I feel like He has answered so many prayers. I feel His presence. I feel very loved and very fortunate and very blessed. So that's another thing I could talk for hours about. Anyway, I'm going to show you just a few things from the yard. I did plant nasturtium, more of that yesterday. So much I want to do. I can go to the store today. We're still being really careful. This is a phase 1, and I'm so proud of our mayor. He's been really careful, and our area has done well considering. And he has put together a local task force to help oversee the opening of this area and the stores. And, I'm going to go out and get some soil and some mulch. And this little bun, I don't know, something ate a lot of I don't know if bunnies eat petunias. I don't know about that. But my petunia, I went out yesterday morning and something had eaten a lot of the pink petals, but there was also a slime trail from some slugs. And I know that they get into things. So I'm not really sure. That little bunny was looking this morning like he was going to come up into the garden. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I would never hurt the bunny. I really want the bunny to be a pet, but it's a wild bunny. And I want to get chickens. I think Jason's a little bit not afraid. And he wouldn't tell me no. And honestly, I'm at a point in my life where, if somebody tells me no, I'm just going to have to go because, well, I shouldn't say that. That sounds really harsh, but you know what? If I had drawn a deep, deep line in the sand for myself a long time ago. I could have saved myself a lot of hurt, but I wouldn't trade my babies. Nope. So I think sometimes we get what we need. And then that opens up a whole different question. Some people are getting pain and abuse way beyond what I will ever understand or experience, I hope. And they're not getting what they need. I don't mean it like that. I just don't know. Life is very, very complicated. But I think I'm being pulled to learn to be still and to learn to move forward at the same time. That might not make sense, but I'm like that little bunny that is still for so long, and then there's a sense of fear and bolt. I feel that sometimes because I have lost a lot and I'm afraid to lose again. I'm very afraid to lose again. And I don't think there's any danger of that here. I don't think there's any danger of that here. I have my best friend here. None of us know what kind of tragedy or act of nature could come along and take everything. But I think I need to be still, and I need to embrace what I've been blessed with and take care of me. That's what I need to do. So, enough rambling. Let's look at the compost. It's been really windy lately. Look at the trees. They're so tall. This is where I put my compost. I think you've had a glimpse of this before, but maybe not up close. There were quite a few logs on the back of the property, and I just picked them up and either carried them or rolled them to make a semicircle. That was probably 3 years ago. I noticed that this one is really getting some rot. It's crazy. Look at that. I think I could almost push my foot into that. I like to use these for mulching the pine bark. There's quite a bit of it here, actually. Need to be careful for spiders. Usually I have my gloves on, but I just wanted to show you this. I hope I can find it. There was some sort of creature in the top of this. It had wings, and it was sticking out. This was closed, and now look. I guess the squirrels get up here and do this. See how that's cored out? Interesting. Wow, that looks pretty rotten too. I bet that would make good mulch. Look what the squirrels have done. I see them sitting out here. Let them sit on top of this. It's like their little community center. Let's walk around to the back of this. Ooh, more good pine bark. I can break that up. Yeah, that's going to be really good mulch when that all decays into the soil there. It'll soften it up a lot. I wonder where his home is. I want to make a bee hotel soon. We've got a lot of cool rocks on the property. It's really rocky. A rocky place. You know, you can tell that when we walk on the Eno and you see all of the, it looks like mountains almost. I need to come get some of these for my garden. It's all concrete. Oh, wow. I uncovered an ant nest. Isn't that just interesting? is that in the center of everything? I don't know if you can even see what I'm looking at. It's a white creature. See it moving? Well,